Hey, welcome to Clarksville Vibe the show where we tell the stories about people here in Clarksville, Tennessee who make this place the greatest place to live in America. I'm your host, Kevin Kennedy Jr., lifelong Clarksvillian. I get to be a pediatric dentist here in the Sango community, and I get the special privilege of being the host of this show where we get to tell stories from amazing people, from lifelong Clarksvillians like myself to people who've just moved here, veterans of the military, small business owners, people from Austin Peay, just doing amazing things all across our community who make this place such a great place to live. Today's guest is one I'm really excited about. Had him on the list of potential guests for a long time. He and I have connected kind of in this world of how are we running our small businesses that serve our community all across the community. So I'm really glad to have him. He's JT Ferrell of Absolute Best Appliance. JT, so glad that you're here. Glad to dig into more of what we're going to talk about. Hear your story, son.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, it's fun. I got to tell you, so we bought our house that we're currently in about 2013, 2014. And the previous owners left magnets on the side. It's like, hey, here's everybody who was taking care of our appliances, taking care of the yard, the irrigation, whatever it is, and we've got this Absolute Best Appliance magnet with the legend, Danny Phelps, on there. It's got his name on there. And so you and I connected. I think you reached out to me first. I was growing this pediatric dental practice, and you just kind of reached out via message and said, hey, how are you marketing? What are you finding successful? How are you tweaking your things? And so it's been fun to watch your journey now becoming this next generation of leading Absolute Best Appliance. But before we dig into it too much, give everyone just kind of an overview of what does your business do? Like, what's its role in Clarksville and how long has it been around?
Yeah, so we just turned 25 this year. Started in 99. Father-in-law started, he and his wife went out on their own from GE. Took a huge leap of faith. And we service all residential kitchen and laundry appliances, every brand. That's kind of our go-to saying. There's nothing we can't work on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies around the area that don't work on all brands, and sometimes I think that may be for the best. But sure. But we're happy to try to help everybody out with all brands.
I mean, what a niche, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a kind of a twist in life that you never expected. Of like, this is your day to day.
Yeah. Sometimes I just driving down the road. I'm like, I have no clue how this happened.
No clue how it happened. I'm sure it's brought you to some crazy experiences, going into people's homes, not really knowing what to expect. Yeah. But then at the same time, it's like you get to see, as I do, really all of Clarksville.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to say everybody, but there are lots of kids in Clarksville. There's lots of refrigerators, lots of dishwashers, lots of, hot water heater. I don't know everything that you work on, but I mean, there's just such a need in every residence, right? And so you get to see it all. You've got to see it boom. You've got to see new communities. You get to see, older neighborhoods that have its own challenges, dealing with the elderly among our community, new homeowners, everything.
Everything. Yeah, for sure. We have zones for our techs. We have 6 techs now, which is such a blessing. But for probably 10 years, it was just me and Danny, my father-in-law. And I worked the north side, went on Fort Campbell, did everything. And now I'm mainly in Sango. We've got guys out all across probably about a 40-mile radius around Clarksville.
Wow.
But just getting to meet different types of people and the relationships I've built because of that, it kind of reminds me of sports. Just like you stick with people and they stick with you. And
yeah, I do want to hear you tell us a little bit about that because you're not originally from here. You're from Gallatin area, which is still Middle Tennessee. So you know the culture really well.
Yeah.
But when you start, coming in as the son-in-law of Danny Phelps and like people have seen him, I'm sure maybe your first couple visits you're going with him, but then you're out on your own. You're your own tech at that point. You're going into homes that you've maybe never been into, but they know him.
Yeah.
And so what is it like? How has the Clarksville community embraced you? What did you feel like, hey, this is actually a place where I can grow this business and I want to stay here?
Yeah, at the beginning it's tough. A lot of those calls will come in. It's like, hey, I don't want that kid out here.
Yeah.
I want Danny back. But that guy's probably forgotten more than I'll ever know.
Yeah.
But as it grew and grew and people started to trust me and the business and the things that we did, it kind of took off from there. So I think the biggest stepping stone that we had to expand the business was the building we bought on 41A. He bought in 2016. At the time, I was like, "What are you doing, man?
Yeah.
This is scary. This building's also in pretty rough shape." We've since done quite a few improvements, and I think the people who live there are pretty happy with that. But it blew up from there. We had room for office staff, we had room to get more techs, and then it's just
park your trucks.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's supply management, inventory
just
management.
a sign being,
a sign.
It's crazy.
Sure. People
just
driving
nuts.
up.
Because we were mobile from 99 to 16. He just worked out of the house.
Oh my goodness.
Which overhead is extremely low at that point.
Sure.
It's probably.
But so
a
is
lot
your
more
capacity.
Correct.
It's like you really do have a very real ceiling of what you can do.
I remember vacations and Christmases, we would do that together, but we just take off the whole week.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was easy, but I could not imagine that at all now.
Yeah, because as someone who's used your service, your business multiple times in the past, there is a very real sense of, like we've latched on to Absolute Best Appliance, a brand, but we've also latched on to, we know JT's always going to be able to take care of us. And there is the moment of like, okay, well, if the washer and dryer, if the washer just starts flooding into the floor, I don't ever think that I have, just immediate access to you,
right.
But there's a way, like I know who to call, and the business has to grow into that.
Yeah.
And, my dental practice, we're kind of undergoing those same things, is where up to this point, it's always been just me.
Yeah.
And so if I wanted to take my kids to a water park, like that meant there's a day where I'm not available. If we want to actually go out of town, it's a couple days I'm not available.
Yeah.
But for your kids, if you have an accident on the playground at school, it's like the business kind of needs to get to a point where if you're really going to serve the community well, where it grows to a place where you do have people who can take care of needs. And maybe, yes, you're the most trusted person. Our relationship is with you or with another tech or with something like that. But the business is big enough to if there's an issue, I don't have to call someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing that that's probably one of my biggest pain points that my team has pushed me. They're like, look, you gotta get in the office a little bit more.
Sure.
And there's no way that we can grow if you're out running calls. So we're slowly adjusting to that. We've got some great people. I'm very picky on who we hire.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've had to recruit outside of the community to bring people here with skills, or are you mainly able to recruit people from our community?
We've been really lucky. My management team, my lead tech and office manager, they lived here.
Yeah.
The lead tech just walked in the door one day and was looking for a job, and this was 7 years ago. And we're like, that was kind of the hurdle, or the stepping stone that Danny had. It was like, you're hired, man. Like he just rode with him one day and he's like, let's go. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And at that point, I really had no thoughts on ownership. I was still in law school at the time, so like it was just somebody different, it was new. But.
So tell me, you mentioned law school.
Yeah,
I think, some people may be surprised. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Number one, you're an extremely sharp guy. Number two, I've got family members who went to law school and are not practicing. Right. Obviously my dad is practicing, my uncle is practicing, but I've got an aunt and another cousin who all graduated law school and are not practicing law to a certain degree. But, so you were going to law school and then doing this kind of on the side?
Yes, I was actually already doing this.
Okay.
I guess I was going into my junior year at Austin Peay, met my wife. That was probably, mid 2009. And I was working at Lowe's, just kind of, night gig, weekends, which was horrible, And Danny, he was like, hey, why don't you, start riding along, carrying the tools, just learn. I'm like, whatever. Yeah, sure. Like, I don't have to work on the weekends. I was pretty much at the point at Austin Peay, and it's like all online classes.
Yes. Well, actually, no, I don't.
Okay.
I'm older than that. Okay. You might be surprised.
We overlapped a little.
Listen, I talked to an Austin Peay football player. This is total side note. He is a senior this year. He had his first in-person class.
Yeah, that's crazy.
His second semester, senior year, graduated. Every other class he's had for 4 years has been all online. I was the generation of Austin Peay. This is like 2003, 4, 5, where I had the first couple iterations of online classes. And it was very much figuring out, like, do we make them show up at all? Right. Do we, is this a hybrid class? I think I took a music or something, and I got the whole thing done on Thanksgiving weekend. It was like the most awesome experience. And then I was moving on. But, 5 years later, it just continues to develop. And now I'm thinking 10 years after that, so these athletes, they don't really go to class. The coaches don't really want them to because they're wanting their athletic schedule to take priority. They can do classes
60
whenever.
hours a week.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that, how just a little gap in that education journey changed online classes for everybody. But you were taking online at Austin Peay, going, hanging around with Danny, learning the trade from there.
I was a political science major, so I had I think like Russian politics or something.
Okay,
just,
crazy.
Crazy.
Yes.
And I would get done at 9 on like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and he would come to Austin Peay, pick me up at 9, and we would ride around, till closing time, I guess. And then he would drop me off, and I'd go home. And then it became a point where I would drive to his house, and it was just a lot of flexibility. And I'm so grateful that he did, because I'm at the stage of life now where when I'm running calls, I'm like, I have no time to do anything. I don't even eat. I grab lunch and go. But he took that time to invest in me, and I don't know if they saw anything at that point, what they were deciding, but it was crazy. But graduated, went to law school. At the time when I was at Carson in my first year, had two good buddies. They were heading the NFL. Like, we kind of knew that. And NFL just passed where you had to be a sports agent, a lawyer to be a sports agent. So I'm like, okay, society's like, be a lawyer, doctor, like whatever, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I got to do something, and I really wanted to do that. I was passionate about that. Quickly learned that wasn't for me. I wanted to be a family man, and just probably not mean enough for that role. So I kind of knew that halfway through law school, but I finished. I'll never forget, it was probably 3 a.m. one morning. I was sitting at our kitchen table that my wife and I built at our old house in Pleasant View. She was pregnant with our first kid, and just like something hit me in the head. I'm like, what am I doing? Like I don't want to practice law. Like I'm not. I interned at the DA's office. I'm like, this is miserable. And nothing wrong with that. It's just, it wasn't my cup of tea. As you know, not many people come see you when you're happy, or go see a lawyer when they're happy. So I just had a conversation with them and asked them what their plans were, and they're like, we don't really know. Retirement is kind of, we've been making it and surviving, but we would love to have that conversation. They were really concerned about my family, and like
absolutely
right. You went through college and all that. And I was like, well, I paid my way through college, so I'm good. That was on me, and I was honestly a little nervous about telling my family too, but they were completely supportive. And, I had no business background whatsoever. So learned that a lot.
Here we are.
School of hard knocks for sure. Still learning every day. There's something. But
the reality of your business now too is that every day you're leading a business that you've not done before. And sometimes the vulnerability is the key, not only for your own ability to kind of take a breath sometimes, like, okay, this is really hard because I've never done this before, but also telling your team sometimes, like, I've said in the past, like, I think we're up to 18 or 19 team members at this point. We're adding some new people, new roles, and like, hey, I need some patience from y'all too, because I've never done this. So if this seems off, like, let's have a conversation about it, and now we're going to move you forward, but we've all got to move together. And when you have trust in one another, now the organization can overcome these little bumps and hurdles. I think back of like, oh, how easy it would be to have a team of 4, and just how easy would it be if it was just you and Danny. But it comes with a lot of its own challenges. Like you said, emergencies, time off, things like that. It's like, you've moved past that. So now you have new challenges every day, but as long as you can just kind of internalize and accept it, like, this is a challenging time because I've never done this before, and have enough self-confidence, like, I've overcome all of these other challenges, so I can overcome these too. That seems to be at least how I get through it.
Yeah. It's a journey every day for sure. But the good definitely outweighs the bad. And I see, the things like we're employing Clarksvillians, we've got, I think 8 total employees now, 9 total employees. I can't even keep up. Interviews every day. So
that's also another thing. You're always hiring, always looking for great people. Some of my friends even know, hey, if you meet somebody amazing at a business or a restaurant or something like that, not hiring away from friends or anything, but if you feel like they would be awesome at working with kids in my practice, mention it to them. Mention it to me. We'll find great people. That's what's going to be the backbone of our teams, where we send someone in. I know if someone from your team comes into my house, they've got the JT stamp of approval. And sometimes that's really, I know that's a big weight to carry, but you've got to eventually do it. And if it doesn't go well, you're going to make it right. And I think that's where sometimes people don't or underestimate the value of a small business, because neither you or I can afford to make mistakes that we don't personally stand up on and choose to make them right, because we're here in the business of serving our community. We don't have 45 other locations around the U.S. to say, oh, I'm sorry, that didn't go well. Tough luck, find somebody else.
I never want to get to that point. And we tell people all the time, like, we want to remain that small town feel, but be able to serve. I think the goal is all of Middle Tennessee. I mean, that's what we're looking for. But I had a really hard time at the beginning of micromanaging, and probably still do. checking everybody's work. When a tech would go out to the house, I would spend an hour at the end of the day looking at all their paperwork, and I'm like, I've got to trust these guys, you know. And then if something does happen, we'll make it right. But I finally, last couple of years, I've gotten to the point of delegating that task to other people. You check this work, you know. I can't spend the time to do that. But our biggest thing is, you know, we feel like we can teach people if they have a mechanical background, appliance repair, but being able to go into an intimate setting like somebody's house, you got to be able to talk to people and relate. And
I may not know much, I may be very naive to your industry, but as a consumer, I don't feel like there's a ton of big boxes in the appliance repair space. You know, maybe you can do it through Lowe's. I'm not really sure, but it seems to me like a lot of the options are, you know, more local based.
Yeah.
And so I would ask you, like, how does that, in how we got introduced to each other 5 or 6 years ago, how have you found it to be a challenge to let people know what you do in a growing community where so many people are new to our community? They're moving here from California, they're PCS in here via military, or they're coming from Nashville because here they get a yard that they can't afford in Nashville or things like that. But because you don't have this big marketing department, you are the marketing department. What's been a challenge of letting people know what you do?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you said, you know, there's not a ton of big box appliance repair people. It hasn't worked. Like, people have tried it, you know, manufacturers have tried it and they failed. GE's been about the only one that's held on to one, but they're in a transition now. That's what Danny did at the beginning. But basically, they use third party or smaller companies to be their guinea pigs.
Yeah, sure.
You know, hey, you'll figure this out for us, and then we'll know what's wrong, and we'll go from there. And some people either do that or they don't. They're like, I'm not messing with it. I'm going to do no warranty work. But we've kind of took the bull by the horns with the warranty work and looking at it as customer acquisition. Get into the house, doing a warranty call. Not a ton of money in warranty, but we can throw that magnet on the fridge after we get done, and they're hopefully happy with that. And we use that opportunity too to help grow the business. You know, at the end of the call, just like you guys do, they get a link for a review. An honest review. You can't take away the good or the bad, you know, on Google. Everybody knows that.
Do you ever just sit at night wondering, like, should I take away that automatic request? Because as things get beyond my control, I realize letting that go and you know, inevitably something can go wrong, whether it's something that we made a mistake about or it's just something that just inevitably, like, sometimes there are things that we can't always solve in the way that someone's expectations might want them to be solved. And so I've thought about that before, like, I don't know, do I want that out there every time?
Yeah.
Thankfully, my team is amazing. You know, they cover it up. They really do what they do with pride. And we've got a really great online reputation. But it is there's a fear among wolves, you know, out there in that space.
Yeah, it's crazy. We fought that. I mean, and we're very proud of our reviews. Something, you know, when I first started, we had like, I don't know, 3 on Google or something. And now we're almost to 1,400. At a really high rating. But you know, people are addicted to social media and stuff, and I'm addicted to looking at Google. And it's where the calls come in, you know, looking at leads and all that kind of stuff. But we had a good 3-year stretch of just really, really good ones, and it was like 2 months ago, just 2 weeks of just like something's off, you know, in the universe. And we had one of our guys that I trust wholeheartedly. He was, I mean, within 5 minutes, he got this review. This guy was like, he's driving erratically on the road. And I called him. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, dude, I've been, sometimes I do, but today I was really, really good. So then I go look at this guy's reviews, and he's reviewed 20 companies of people driving erratically. And I'm like, come on, man. You know, like, why don't you just call us and we'll talk about it?
At some point, the problem's not us.
Yeah. So that's been hard to accept. And instead of immediately thinking we're wrong, I try to listen to everybody. And hear both sides. And then if we are wrong, we'll fix it. But if he was driving erratically, I don't know. We need to do something about that. But I don't think he was that day. But it's been tough. But I think that's been our biggest piece of growth within the community, especially new people taking the time to put their testimony out of our experience, taking pictures of, sometimes I'll see a review and it's a picture of my backside, like working on the fridge. And I'm like, okay, you know, that's fine, I guess. But just, I know that I always tell our guys, I'm like, if they mention you by name in the review, you made a positive impact.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They're going to think about that and trust, you know, when they need to call back.
What's it like in your industry, in the world of like YouTube DIY attempts?
Yeah.
Because, you know, as a consumer, there's always this natural attempt of like, okay, to get it fixed right. I don't know what the number is in my head before I make this call, but there's going to be a number, and I'm going to have to either swallow it or just move on with it. So let's see what YouTube has to say. Maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. I think from your perspective, like looking at how critical some of these things are to our home, but then knowing of like, you wouldn't imagine how many times people make things worse. Or no, I mean, it's a good first opportunity and we're here to help if it falls through the net, or whatever.
Our biggest thing, and kind of what we joke about all the time, we'll go into a house and it's just completely dismantled. And the first thing people say was, I took it apart for you.
Yeah.
I'm like,
great.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Like, well, I got to put it back together so I can figure out what's wrong.
Legit, like,
oh my God. I had a guy one time that
I didn't even think about that as a possibility.
There's rivets on the back of this specific dryer, and they're not supposed to come off. And he like pried them off, and got them off. And he's like, I got the back off for you. And I was like, well, the funny thing is everything comes apart from the front, and I'm like, you've now destroyed your dryer, so I'm going to just walk away from this today. Yeah. So,
well intentioned. Yes.
I'm a big YouTube guy. Like
That's right.
I'm all for that. Like I'm dabbling in like rebuilding golf carts right now, which is really strange, I know, but learned a lot on YouTube about it. And I always tell people like, I'm all for that. Like try it. Pride, sometimes pride gets in the way. Sometimes you know enough to be dangerous. Yeah. But be careful. Another thing too is the demand of Amazon and parts and things like that. Too. So everybody's like, well, I can get this part for $20 on Amazon, and I'd look where it came from. Because there's going to be no warranty on that. If it floods your house, is insurance going to cover that deal? So that's something we fought as well. And pricing too. Like at the beginning of starting this, I really wanted everybody to be my customer. Yeah. And I know that that's not the case anymore. Everybody's not your customer. We provide a professional service. We're not the most expensive, but we're definitely not the cheapest. So there's a cost to doing that type of business. Yeah. And what we call our hopefully white glove business. We try to do certain steps throughout the process of the repair to make people feel like that they're the only customer in that moment, even though they're not, because we all do like 11 a day. So, but yeah, the YouTube thing has been big because we get a lot. People say, "Well, I probably could have done this. I just didn't have the time."
Sure.
And I respect that, but I'm here to make it easier for you and get it done in 10 minutes. And then it's a flat rate price. It's not charging by the hour or anything like that. So I think that's helped us a lot. People ask, "What do you charge an hour?" Because I think that's a plumbing and electrical thing, and it's flat rate. Like if your dryer takes one of my guys an hour and me 10 minutes, it's the same price.
Same price.
So we're taking that.
You just got to learn.
Right. Yeah, that's on him at that
Come
point.
On, dude.
Right. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, you mentioned taking apart golf carts and things like this, and as every entrepreneur does, we are easily distracted in our side pursuits of things that are fun. You mentioned to me like you've now started to dabble in this. Like I'm not a golfer, so tell me about it. But it's like marking the ball, a ball marker, right? That you can customize, and now you're selling these things, going to golf events of really all around the country. Is there something that took off in COVID, and you got a little business sense now that with your law degree and your business now you actually know how it works.
So I guess the December before COVID, my mom got me a ball marker in the shape of a guitar pick, and it had the TriStar stamp. And I'm like, this is really freaking cool. Yeah. So I'm like, wheels are spinning. And then COVID hits. I'm like, I think I'm going to try to start stamping wedges, which are golf clubs, and then ball markers. And I did, and I thought it was really cool. And looking back, they probably weren't that cool at that moment. But we've got them in the hands of some really cool people, some people high up in the golf world, and got an investor that's big into the golf world and knows a lot of people. We've met a lot of people through pro events and done some local pro events in Nashville and all over the country. And the biggest thing that really took off is I kind of call myself the artist of it, but I've got a buddy that's in pharmaceutical sales, and I brought him on, and it's blown up since then. That dude can
professional sales.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he loves it too. He loves golf, and we were both kind of in that. We love our job, love business, but it can get tough. Sure. It's monotonous sometimes, or just the hardship of running a business. And this was something to kind of take our mind off of it while having fun. And it just really. It started off like, hey man, we get this one event, like this is going to be cool. We're going to go hang out with pro golfers, and then it kind of snowballed after that. And certain people were like, this is a really cool atmosphere. And we go to golf courses, and we'll sit on a par 3 a hole. They'll come up. We've got a specialized ball marker, depending on what the event is. Like we've done a lot for American Cancer Society, and they'll have their logo on the front. Coaches versus Cancer, that was a big basketball one that they had. so they'd come up to the hole. We'd ask them, you know, what can we stamp for you? Your initials, number, grandkid's name, or, you know, anything. And we would stamp it, and people were like, this is so cool. You would never think something so simple would be so cool. I've done a lot of stuff on that.
Well, it kind of brings me to the point of a question, because I think sometimes people in our generation, when you start something, your ceiling is limited by your skills. And what I heard you say that was really interesting to me is, you've got a really well-connected investor. You got someone that has professional sales experience. Yeah. Like, what have you learned in terms of engaging those relationships that helped surprise you for it to have, not necessarily dollar success, but maybe impact success? And because that's where, I'm not necessarily looking to be everyone's kid's dentist, but there is an element of where I may be holding us back because I'm not engaging these professionals who are this is what they do. So what kind of gave you the courage or the, I guess even the idea to start to engage people beyond yourself over what started as like kind of a silly side hustle for you?
And one thing he taught me, and one thing my mom always used to tell me, because I'm very non-confrontational. I don't like confrontation at all, but I was always afraid of somebody saying no. Yeah. Worst thing to do is going to say no, and we've got
that's sales guys. Yeah. I don't get it, but man, they've got,
and he's not pushy, but he's very much like we put it in front of their face and we give them the price, and it's a premium product, but those guys are looking for tax write-offs. They're looking for just cool events, different things to do. And everybody, humbly speaking, I've seen it from, multiple comments, but they're just loving the idea of being out there. It's an interactive experience.
Sure.
It's cool for us too, because I think all of September and then half of October, one time a week, I'm going somewhere. We're traveling, so getting to see the world. But I told
you taking the family with you?
Well, no.
Sometimes.
Yeah, no. I may. We got possibly Orlando in February that they may want to do a Disney trip. But wife's a teacher, so she's not getting away.
Yeah, not unless it's fall break.
And we tell our kids we're allergic to Disney too. So.
Well, you don't want to have anaphylaxis. There's actually, I read something the other day. It's like somebody had a legit anaphylaxis and like couldn't hold Disney liable because they signed up for Disney Plus. Like, so you may have actually a legit argument for your kids there. And I don't know. Orlando is really cool outside of Disney. We did a non-Disney Orlando trip in conjunction with the dental thing last year, and it was pretty fun. Yeah. So. Might have to hook up the camper and make it happen.
Maybe so. We've got that planted on the lake right now. That's helped me a lot with extra golf and stuff like that, because I've got it set up and the wife and kids can go during the summer and stuff like that.
That's fun.
So we're actually going this weekend for her birthday.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Sarah Marie.
Yes. Happy birthday.
Plug that.
Yeah. Don't want to forget.
29 forever.
Absolutely. So, yeah. It's amazing how you keep getting older, and those years don't.
I look at pictures. I'm like, man, you definitely look a lot
inching
better.
Closer to retirement with every year, but the age never changes. So that's awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about being girl dad. Yeah. Like, I've got the same experience. My girls at home right now are 9, going to be 7 in October. Your girls are around that same kind of early elementary school age. What has surprised you about it?
How weak I am. Like I think that I'm like going to be in some serious trouble when they get older. Weak on that front at least, but I've never seen the world differently. I never thought I would see the world the way I see it now. Yeah. Just as little stuff like I've got a buddy that just runs his mouth all the time we play golf. He's a good dude, but he'll say stuff like, you throw like a girl, run like a girl. Yeah. It makes me so mad. Yeah. And I never would have thought that would have been a thing, but I'm like, dude, my daughter is way tougher than your son. I promise you that.
I would share that experience. Like I feel like there are times where I'm like, and I get the experience of actually doing hard things, to try to help kids, but they're hard, and it's like, no, I mean, girls are they're just as tough as boys for sure. I think one of the things that has surprised me is how fun it is to just watch them grow and develop. In my girls especially, they have so many interests. It's like, yes, they like girly things, but then they like what are maybe non-traditionally like girly things. And we get to see them pursue this and pursue that. And it's like, you get to develop this whole personality. And that's something that I didn't really expect.
Yeah. They're special. I always joke with them. It's kind of a funny story. I tell them like, y'all going to take care of me when I get older, right? Yeah. And I know the oldest will. She's very much daddy's girl. But the youngest other night was, I asked her that again, and she's like, "When are you gonna die?" And I'm like, "Well, I hope not soon."
That's right, yeah.
And then I get, "Well, are you gonna live longer than Taylor Swift?" And I'm like, "Well, I hope so, but I don't know," you know. And it was just kind of a funny conversation. She's gonna be the jokester and the second child syndrome. And it's wild.
You had a great football career. Played a little bit in college and things like that. What is it like being like a really successful athlete dad and then now parenting young kids? Do you feel
I'm
an
a horrible
urge?
coach.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, not good. And my wife, which
is it because you're too hard on them?
I guess I'm trying.
Okay,
not
fair
to
enough.
Be. Yeah, and I don't even say anything, but
Sarah Marie just looks at you.
She can see me like tensing up. So Finley, our oldest, she got into the CJGT, the junior golf tour in Clarksville, which is awesome. But she had her last event, and she's been getting pretty good, like for an 8-year-old, trying really hard. But she was just doing some things that she wasn't paying attention, and I'm just like over there, I didn't say anything, but she could just see it. And Sarah Marie's like, she can read your body language. Like, I'm like, well, I got it way worse when I was a kid. She's like, it doesn't matter. But I was really surprised at how my wife latched on to the sports or golf and gymnastics that they're doing. And it's been exciting.
Yeah.
But it does not translate like being good at a sport to being able to teach it or,
or even have the patience.
I'm not a patient person at all. Try to be. But
do you feel like if they enjoy it that you'll be all in? Like, as far as like, hey, green light, you take it as far as you want.
So like I've told myself, especially with golf, because I love golf and I'm not trying to push that on them, but like our rule is to go out there and we'll have fun. I'll let them play Kids Bop or Greatest Showman soundtrack or whatever. And the rule is after.
Do you sing?
No, well,
do you sing
depends
the
on
part?
who's around, right?
I was gonna say like, there's no way you're like full girl dad and not singing the parts.
We have some good times for sure.
Greatest Showman.
Yeah,
you got.
I've turned in. I thought I was always going to be the cool dad, but I don't know half the people that's on the radio now.
Yeah,
like I've hit that.
No,
point
we
in
don't.
Life.
Yeah, we're at that point.
I always wonder when that would happen, and it's happened for sure. But we get ice cream after every like big golf event. So Livy, the youngest, she's just doing gymnastics now, so she'll hopefully be into golf next year or whatever, horse riding, like whatever she wants to do. So I'm not trying to be pushy on that specific sport, but we definitely want to do extracurriculars for sure.
It's just such a challenge, and I think Adonia, my wife Adonia, she played soccer at Austin Peay.
Yep.
She's a really great basketball player in high school. Kind of played dual sports, and that was her life. I think from really age 6, she was one of the girls that was playing with the boys.
Yep.
Then she got to middle school, was a great athlete. Kind of started and played a lot of varsity as a freshman, really both sports. And so it's in her blood. Like, I mean, she's a competitor. Yeah. She's tough. Like she knows what it takes and how fun sports can be. And I was very mediocre, like pretty good high school player, nothing beyond that. But I enjoyed it. And, now parenting, you look at it in the lens of you have so many things that you can do. And I think the gift that I have is that I've lived long enough to where sports is not the only activity. Yeah. And we've seen the really talented ones, play as long as they can, and it only lasts so far. So we're kind of in this, like, how much do we push? We want them to be able to be competitive if they enjoy it. And that takes effort in today's world of parenting young kids. But at the same time, we're not trying to spend 5 days at the ball field of any one particular thing. And it just seems to be a challenge. And I think a lot of us in this generation of trying to parent, it's a challenge because if you really give them the best and put the best opportunities in front of them, your life is consumed. Yeah. And if you don't, they may not have the opportunity to be able to play on a middle school team or a high school team. It just seems to be a challenge.
It's kind of sad where youth sports is right now, in my opinion.
Sure.
If you're not playing travel ball and everything, you really can't get ahead, which is not necessarily fair to that kid. Like grew up playing Little League and that was, you spent the, nights at the Little League field, but it wasn't practicing until 9 o'clock at night and all these different things.
Sunday morning games at 9 a.m.
Yeah. And my wife and I, we talk, we kind of ask ourselves, are we being selfish for not wanting to do this? Sure. But, because we have a life too, but we want to be good parents. And I think maybe knowing that 1% of athletes go professional, like it's 1-3 or something like that. It's just not. I looked at sports more now, looking back on it, was just the life lessons. It's probably helped me more in business than I know, knowing how to talk to people and different people from different walks of life.
Sure.
You're around. I remember one thing when I was at Carson Newman, Southern Baptist School, during summer camp, for 4 weeks we went to different churches, different types of churches, and that was an eye-opening experience. And I'm like, this is pretty cool, you know, and just getting to know different people from different walks of life, different cultures, different parts of the country. So that's what I'm kind of hoping with sports, you know, and
any extracurricular,
right. Just get them, you know, socializing and knowing how to be good people. Like we talk all the time, as long as they're good people, like we're done okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I know we've got to chat a lot about kind of how you got into the business that you're in, talked a little bit about family stuff, but I want to kind of round third and head home and talk about community, because you know, you're from Gallatin, you ended up choosing to stay here. San Marie's from here, but you know, you still had a choice. You could be anywhere you wanted to be doing the business that you want to do, and the business can take you anywhere. What is it about Clarksville that really, you know, you've kind of latched onto that makes it feel like home, that regardless of what ABA may grow into or maybe where your history is from, like this is now where we're choosing to raise our family?
Yeah. I'm probably not the only one that says, I've heard it a bunch, but I feel like Clarksville is probably one of the biggest small towns in the country.
Yeah,
like
probably
there's people have accepted me, you know, probably with the business, and like I'll never forget in '99, my dad and I drove up to see the tornado damage. I don't know, we just doing something on Friday night. Right. I'm like, this is forever away, and I never would have imagined coming to school here, getting offered out of high school to come play ball here, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
you know, like it wasn't a good situation.
Sure.
And just in a year turn back and be here, but I think the melting pot of people is what I love the most about it, like the different types of people. But then once you're here, you stay.
Right.
A lot of people have done that. A lot of businesses that are Clarksvillians, you know, born and raised here, and some people that have transplanted here.
Yeah.
It's just it's a great community. Like whether you go to Fort Campbell side of town or, you know, in Sango, you're going to see somebody you know. And it's a really cool thing.
And then sometimes you go to something and you're like, I can't believe I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
You know, you spend 6 days a week and it's like you run into people that you know everywhere, and then I'll go to an event at the arena and it's a Disney on Ice or something random. Right. And I look through in the crowd, I'm like, there's 5,000 people here, and I don't think I see anybody that I know.
Right?
It's cool and scary. And, you know, I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast, but I vividly remember multiple times my dad would be driving up Wilma Rudolph or down Fort Campbell Boulevard or a big street, and he would say, Casey, that's what he calls me. Casey, you see all these cars? You see this? What does that mean to you? I don't know. I'm 14. I don't know. What is it? What are you trying to teach me? He's like, this is opportunity. This is a place of opportunity where cars, traffic, businesses, buildings, wood that's being made into something like this is a place of opportunity. And I get it now. It's like I do see it, where when I took a chance, when Danny took a chance and bought that building that was in bad shape, and, you know, whether that was in the mid 2000s or whatever it is, it's like now 2025, you're like, we could never have achieved that. A, without his foresight, but B, without a growing community to support it.
Right.
And, you know, I hope that's what my dental practice gets to see. I hope that's what my kids get to experience, because with new people comes new opportunities for our kids. And our girls get to try new things. Volleyball is blowing up here, which wasn't a thing when I was a kid. Gymnastics is blowing up here, which wasn't really a thing when I was a kid. So to see them even have chances to go and explore things, I think is really, really cool.
And something you don't want to take for granted either. I mean,
Absolutely not.
I've got friends in, you know, rural areas that unfortunately that town's not going anywhere.
Right.
You know, and we have, that's why a lot of people are flocking here and bringing business here. But military obviously is a big driving factor for that. But I try to remind myself of that being here. It's like you see a new neighborhood go up. Like on one hand, I'm like, well, that's kind of sad about the farmland, but also look at it as opportunity. There's 7 more appliances for me to be able to work on. We don't want them to break for them, but we want to be here to help when they do.
But they will break eventually. And
break.
I think you got to have the thought of, like, our business can help serve. If we really care about the community.
Right.
It's not growing for the sake of growth, but it is our school system. I think it's 30 something elementary schools now crazy. At this point. Like, there's a kid falling on the playground or in recess or in the gym every single day. And we've got to have enough qualified providers. If they break their tooth, like, what are we doing to make sure that we can take care of them? So, well, man, it's been really fun. Thanks for your time. I know that you're, like you said, your hair's on fire most of the time during the day, going either managing your techs or, you know, building your business, this new business that you got. I'm really excited and proud of you for what you've achieved, man. What you do is really important to our community. And I think it gives us a lot of peace of mind that, you know, we're not having to constantly scramble and enter into a relationship, even with that small niche of a service of somebody that we don't trust. Right. And so I appreciate you for investing your life into it here in our community. It helps my family, and I know it helps thousands of others too.
Well,
so.
I appreciate the
It's been fun to chat too.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, thanks for making it to the end of this episode. I want a major shout out. First of all, happy birthday, Sarah Marie.
That's
Don't
right.
forget that one. And found JT at Absolute Best Appliance. Look him up, socials, on Google, whatever. Check out all his amazing Google reviews. And I'm glad you got to hear more of his story. If this resonated with you and you feel like you want to hear more stories like this, go back, check some other episodes, go back to the beginning, find somebody you know, find somebody you don't know, log into that, hit play, put it on repeat, and you'll get to hear great stories of people from all across our community who make this place the greatest place to live in America. I'm your host, Kevin Kennedy Jr. We will catch you on the next episode. Thanks.